It's very bright. I need more light. Okay. Okay. Hello. Hello. Okay, what's going on? Alright. Oh, sound is coming through. Hello. No, I don't want that. Yeah, it's never easy, is it? Okay, that sounds good. Okay, hi. We are here. And it is happening. Turn down my volume a little bit so I don't have to hear myself talk as much. Okay. Hello. Welcome to the live stream. Today we are talking about scorpions in the desert. But I told people that I'd be a little bit late this evening, so I am going to kind of bide my time a little bit, looking for a link too, and I'm sending off some text messages to people that need links to get onto this chat. But I don't know how to do that off my phone because I am bad at technology. Me, view channel. So give me a moment to sort that out. Live. I am live. Oh, share. Just copy link. Yep, that'll do. Okay, sounds like a good plan. Yeah, people texted me at 6 o'clock saying they couldn't find the live stream, and I was working on a table, and I was really into it, so I did not. I forgot that this was happening. Oh, a little mosquito in the desert. Are you fast, mosquito? Anyways. All worked out. Table's almost done. We're not almost done. I finished about half of it. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna kind of jump into it, and I'm gonna start off this live stream. And we're gonna start off by just talking about scorpions, because that's why we're here today. We're talking about this piece of wood that is going to be a scorpion, how they live in the desert, what makes them unique, and why we should be taking care of our little scorpion buddies, and why maybe we should respect them a bit more. I don't think scorpions are disrespected, but I think since I've learned more about them, they're very interesting little creatures. And so I'm going to start off by just talking about their skeleton. I'm going to start off with that. And we're going to do that because I'm going to wait for more people to join before I start doing the quiz questions. Okay, talking about the scorpion. So if you ever see any of those monster movies where there's that monster and they have these mandibles that are kind of coming out of their mouth, and they use that to grab other food and kind of pull it into their mouth and use that as pinchers, and it's kind of creepy. That's basically what a scorpion is. It has its claws, or its pincers, and then in front of its mouth it has a bunch of other pincers that are just tiny kind of digit fingers, and it uses that to scoop up food, both tear it apart and bring it into its mouth, where it has more of a grinder inside of its mouth. On its head, it has 4 eyes. This gives it a good 3-dimensional view of the world around it. Its hands, it has its pincers, its 2 claws, has good defense and offense in the front of its body, and it is actually in the arachnid family. And you can see here that it has 4 legs on each side, so 8 total. It is not exactly an arachnid, but it is a version that is in the family. It's got its shell. So the way that a scorpion works is the same way that a lot of small insects works, is that it has its exoskeleton, and the inside of its body, it doesn't really have muscles or anything like that. Its heart and organs pump fluid to different parts of its body, and pretty much every different little piece of its body is more like a piston than a muscle fiber. And so when it pushes a fluid from its core to its pincer. That's what locks it down to have its legs move. It's all about this give and take of pressure that allows the creature to move forward. We move down. It's got its segments, just kind of a reptilian beast of a creature. More segments, and then it has its stinger, and that makes up the full thing, the full dangerous creature that is a scorpion. When we talk about the stinger of the scorpion, it's usually not venomous to humans. And I'm going to go back to me sitting right here. So typically the pincer of, or the stinger of the scorpion is not a venomous thing. It is just there for defense and offense, and it probably will not impact humans as much as it will smaller other animals. And my YouTube says that it's just me right now in the chat, and so I'm gonna just start a card. Hey, life is good. You've made it. I just went over all the pieces and bits and bops and make up a scorpion. I'm sorry I'm running late this evening. I know I've been really not super on it with the rest of my live streams. It's been a busy couple weeks, but I'm just gonna start getting right into it. Shortest 30 minutes ever. Yeah, I figured I'll start a little bit earlier, and I'm not gonna start the quiz yet because well, I haven't done this in a while, and I think I just need to get my voice back because I haven't talked at a screen into the void for a few weeks now. Whew. Apparently, it's tough to hold a glass with a metal hand. Who knew? And ish, yeah, that was a short 30 minutes. I'm glad that you've made it. I am not sure what's going on with my YouTube control panel. It's telling me that there is no one in the chat or in the live stream, but I don't think that's true. So I don't know if it is totally accurate right now. So just gonna wait. See, is that sharp? Nope, that's not sharp at all. But I would love some new carving knives. I bought these for this one right here, dirt cheap off eBay, and it's not exactly the best carving knife I've ever had. I did get these for a gift a handful of years back, and they have been holding up quite nicely. Ishmanzanara says, greetings from Memphis. Everyone here, including the National Guard, says hey. Aw, thanks, National Guard. Well, I am glad to be getting the Memphis crowd in on this. Memphis knows a bunch about scorpions. Alright, I think I'm gonna fully really start the live stream and start the quizzes and the testing, the very difficult testing, when the clock hits 6:25. I'm also not totally sure. I've looked at a lot of pictures of scorpions, and I'm not really sure if this little cut is going to be good or not. I think their bodies kind of Doesn't really come out in this camera. You see that? Kind of have this shape. So I'm gonna try to get these legs. Hopefully make this thing look good. And the winner of tonight's competition is going to be getting the scorpion. It may be a bad carving, and I'll put a nice note on the bottom of it for whoever wins. Okay, well, it is that time. Let's jump into it so that I can get my flow on and we can get this show on the road. The first quiz question of the night, and if you were here for the couple seconds that I was alive last week before I quit the live stream because I was really not feeling it, you know what this quiz question is, and that is a movie based on the adventures of a scorpion. A movie based on the adventures of a scorpion. Ish says, no bad carvings, just bad jokes. I don't know if I agree with that. We've been doing this for a few weeks now, and I think some of the jokes have been fantastic. So maybe even no bad jokes. And yeah, I agree. Maybe there is also no bad carvings here. No bad vibes. Alright. So, scorpions have been alive since the prehistoric times. They have wandered around when the world was mostly water, and they lived underwater. They evolved from being aquatic creatures to the time that it is, at the time that they are now, to being land and creatures that can live in pretty much every environment. Life is Good says Snow White and the Seven Scorpions. You know, sometimes that's what it feels like living out in the desert. They're small, they're moody, they show up in every place that you don't want them to be in. Snow White. Ish says Aladdin. Scorpion Kings. Sandra says Scorpion Kings. I believe there is already a movie. I'm not sure if Scorpion Kings the Scorpion King. The Scorpion King, which the cover of this live stream is based on, with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who played the CGI Scorpion King in the movie Scorpion King. So, scorpions are very, very old. They lived underwater for hundreds of thousands of years, and eventually, as different creatures began to evolve and migrate onto land, scorpions did the same because that was where their prey was. And when they lived underwater, they were a little bit different than the ones we find now. Right now, the largest scorpions that are commonly found, especially in North America, are only an inch to a few inches long. But back in the prehistoric times, the scorpions could get up to 3 meters in length. They were a bit more streamlined, but that's a pretty big scorpion, especially it still had the same features that are commonly associated with scorpions. It had the kind of armor-like body, pincers up front, stinger in the back, mandibles. So when I was talking about how these horror movies have these scorpions that, or these creatures that have these really grotesque faces, and you kind of see it walking up to the camera like this, and it's pulling its food in and gnawing on it. That's based off a scorpion. And those movies where those creatures were probably 9 feet tall. That's how tall. That's how big the scorpions were in the prehistoric ages. But as time went on, the oxygen levels on Earth changed, and the prey for the scorpion changed, and it became smaller and just adapted to its environment. But it is basically the perfect survivalist. It has been able to keep all the best traits through its years of mutation, because of a certain adaptation that is rarely found in nature, but is found in scorpions. This would... I chose a bad piece for this. You can see here there's a knot right here. And so the wood I have is extremely dense. And because of that, it's very difficult to carve. Especially this knife's sharp, but this knife is not that sharp. But I'm gonna do my best here. But this is a dense piece of wood. I can see why I threw it to the side, because it was very difficult to work with. Bambo says, nah, I'm not here for an 8-foot aquatic scorpion. Yeah, you know, it might change the way that you go to the beach if you lived in the Jurassic times. I mean, there was other things out there, but I would not be down to see an 8-foot scorpion. I imagine it's kind of what a chasm fiend looked like. Anyways, so the reason why scorpions were able to... what's going on with this camera? Were able to keep all their best adaptations, the claws, the skeleton, the stinger, is because they have a trait that allows them to do that, which is they have 2 different lines of genetic code. And so their DNA is able to pretty much experiment with mutations. Yes, that was a Stormlight reference. For those of you who have not read those books, it is a good book series and one I appreciate while I'm in the workshop. But they have these 2 lines of genetic code. So if they have some kind of mutation that doesn't work for them, their body is able to change and like readapt. Or not their body, but their offspring. So say they have one mutation and it doesn't have a pincer, or it doesn't have a stinger, and that creature does not live long. It will pretty much, the DNA will know, and it will deny that DNA mutation from moving forward to the next one. So it will use the better of the 2. And I'm not really too sure how it knows. I'm sure some scientist does, but it does. And that allowed it to keep the best mutations and continue to move forward and basically become this perfect little survivalist hunter. Okay, we're going to move on to the next quiz question. Bambo, you were not here for the first one, but we'll go back to it in a bit. The second of the quiz questions is... what does the Scorpion King call its subjects? What does the Scorpion King call its subjects? So, you know, we got Dwayne The Rock Johnson, who's part Dwayne, part rock, part scorpion. And what does he call his subjects? All the people that he rules. So this was the mutation of being able to have 2 genetic strands was important for its body to continue to evolve to be this perfect body, but it also really impacted the toxins that the scorpions have in their stingers. And so most of the time animals that have venom will target one type of creature, will adapt to its environment. But because scorpions have been alive so long, the toxins that are inside their stinger are basically a cocktail of different types of toxins for different types of predators that it has had over the years of the millions of years of its existence. Sandra says, army of peasants. And so I'm doing my best to focus on the chat at the same time. And so because of that, when a creature does get stung by a scorpion that is around today, it does a number of different things. It both has a paralyzing agent, it has a toxin, it has this neurotoxin, a neurostimulator, all these different kind of like mixture of things. And this depends on species to species, but it's pretty much perfectly adapted to handle anything that's in its environment or has lived in its environment for the last 100, 200, 500,000 years. So that's why we don't want to get stung by them, because they really do hurt, but it doesn't really cause that much damage to humans. Humans have not been a prey for scorpions, but because they have a neurostimulator, even though it doesn't do any damage to us, it does cause a lot more pain than you would think. But it's apparently one of the least it's very painful. It's painful because it's still a sting and it's a neurostimulator, but it is not as painful as wasps. At least the common California ones are not as painful as wasps, so people claim. Okay, army of peasants, let's go. Life is Good says attack critters. Sandra says, dang, Scorpion is full of nasty stuff. It says, the itty bitty stinger crew. I like that one. The itty bitty stinger crew. I imagine the Scorpion King going around and talking about his itty bitty stinger crew, just as they wreak havoc across the world. That's a funny one. The itty bitty stinger crew. Alright, where was I? Oh. Two gene strands. They live. Yes. So they have these two mutation gene strands, and that gives them the ability to pass on the best genes into different generations of scorpions and allow them to keep the things that they like and discard the mutations that do not serve them. But that is pretty cool. Sorry, I'm trying to carve, and I forgot how difficult it is to do all these things all at the same time. Multitasking after a day of working, it can be tough. The meanie stingy scorpiony, says Bambo. So there are many different types of scorpions all over the world. They can pretty much live in any different environment. Because they've been able to keep all the best traits of all the best scorpions over all time, they have figured out how to live everywhere except the Arctic. And something I'm finding out about desert creatures in general is if they can live in the desert, they can pretty much exist anywhere. Seems to be a common trait of desert dwellers, is that to live out here and to survive out here pretty much means that you can live and survive in any environment around the world except for the Arctic. I imagine the Arctic is just too cold for these little scorpions. But who knows? Maybe one day a scorpion will venture out there and it'll have some mutation that'll allow it to be strong and survive in that environment. And that'll change the whole game for scorpions, because it'll take that nice mutation and then it'll get on a boat, come on back, and tell its scorpion buddies that the Arctic is the place to be. But that's just my guess of how things are going to go in the future. Alright, I'm gonna try working on the other side. That side is a tough cookie to crack. Yeah, God, it's all tough wood. And while scorpions live a variety of different times and for a variety of different ages all across the world, around here in California, the common California scorpion lives anywhere from 3 to 20 years. It can really stick around for a long time. And it doesn't really matter the size of the scorpion to guess how long it's going to live. They kind of grow to the size that they are going to get to, and then they stay that way for the rest of their lives. So when we think about some other creatures that are arachnids and they live a long time, they kind of get bigger and bigger. Scorpions just kind of get to the size that they are, and they stay that size for pretty much ever. All right. Tim says, nasty arachnids. Yep, they are arachnids. They got those 8 legs, and they are nasty little suckers. And I am going to ask y'all if you've ever seen any scorpions where you live. If that's ever been a thing that's come across your living domicile. Ish says, but isn't the Arctic considered a polar desert? It is considered a desert, and it is the one desert that they cannot live in. Maybe I should just say more in cold, constantly cold places. These 8-legged, 2-pincer beasts cannot survive. But they can survive pretty much everywhere else. So they can live up to 20 years, and so a California common scorpion is only about 2 inches long. This one's a little bit bigger. This would be a pretty big California common scorpion. But there isn't any association with the size of the scorpion and the venom that they have. There's only about 2 scorpions out of the, I think it's like, oh yeah, out of the 15,000 or 1,500 types of scorpions in the world, only 25 of them are venomous, and there's only 3 that are venomous in North America. And there is no correlation between size of the scorpion and the amount of venom that they can produce, or the danger how dangerous they are to humans. A common belief is that it's not the big scorpions that you have to worry about, it's the little ones. And that's not really true. Some of the most poisonous or venomous scorpions in the world are the biggest ones, and some are the smallest. It doesn't really matter. Maybe that's true in certain areas, but in North America, we have some big ones that are venomous and some tiny ones that are venomous. So don't subscribe to that rule. If you get a big scorpion on you, maybe just brush it off, but chances are that you're going to be totally fine. So they're old. They've been used in all types as symbols for life and parenthood, actually, in all different types of cultures, from Greek to Egyptian, and even some Native American tribes would consider these life givers and paternal protectors of both people and children. And I'm not really sure why that is. Okay, I'm gonna read some comments. Ish, so many, they will be there one day. Life is good. Wow, they live a long time. Ish, to my point, itty bitty stingers. Going back to yours. Yeah, so they've been around in many different cultures, and the reason why I don't think that they deserve their paternal symbolism is because of what happens later in the birthing gestation period. And so when two scorpions decide that they're going to mate, they do this kind of dance where they lock their pincers into each other, and then they kind of spiral around over and over again until they are finished, and that's like their mating ritual. And depending on the species of scorpion, the male may stick around for a while or not, but when a scorpion mother gives birth, it's to a large amount of scorpions, and the scorpion little babies will just all crawl on the back of the scorpion, and the scorpion will carry them around, finding food and supplies for them to stay alive. But what happens later is that if the scorpion mother does not have enough food to feed itself or its children, it may turn around and start to pull the scorpion babies off its back and eat them. And if the scorpion mother's eating all the food and not eating or feeding its children, then the scorpion babies will team up and eat the mother. Yeah, it's good stuff, huh? Anyways, we're going to move on to quiz question number 3. First, Tim says, yes, scorpion is a Greek word. You may know you know how to say scorpion in Greek. Scorpios. Yes, and do you know what scorpion in Greek means? I'll talk about that after the quiz question. Okay. What is a scorpion's what is a scorpion's favorite musician? Or who's the scorpion's favorite musician? I don't know why I can't word that. Scorpion's favorite musician. That's the question. That's the prompt. Good luck out there. Scorpion's favorite musician. Okay. Scorpion in Greek. It means to cut or to scatter. To rip apart. Scorpios. Scorpion. And that's because that's what this thing would do. It would take its claws and rip apart its food and tear into little pieces, and then its little pieces would come to its mouth where it has its little mandibles, and then those would tear all its little bits and pieces apart and eat it, cut things up, scatter it all around. Really lovely creatures. I hope to meet one that's 8 feet sometime. Okay, a scorpion's favorite musician. Ish says, ask Sting. Or maybe one of the members from the Police. Sandra says polka music. Just gonna keep carving this dense piece of ivory that I've got here. Oy, oy. Why have I done this to myself? Hey. This might be more of a grinder kind of situation to carve this thing. Oy, boy. Tim says, bass goes boom da boom. I don't know what musician is bass goes boom da boom, but I'm gonna guess jazz. where was I? Scorpions, Greek to cut, scatter. I think I wrote a note in my little script here, and I think I was at this joke in my script that I wrote to, and I just wrote, I love Sting, because I do love the police, and I love Sting, and that's what inspired this quiz question in the first place. Ish says, piano. Life is good, say the clackety clacks. Tim says the Sting. Ish says 2 votes for the Sting. The Sting. And that was what inspired it anyways. The Sting. Ooh, come on. Carving. Thank you again for these gloves. I would have already cut myself a few times on this carving because this wood is very dense and I need to sharpen up these knives. Never good to work with dense wood and dull knives. Don't do it. But here we are. Not listening to my own rules. Yeah, if we go back to that quiz question number 2, and we look here, under this scorpion face, who is it, if not the Sting? I know. Pretty sneaky, huh, Sting? Alright. Ah, yes. So, some scorpions have even adapted farther than having all these different defense and offensive capabilities, such as their stinger and their pincer and their mandibles and their grinder of a mouth and their 8 legs and their armored body. Some scorpions said this is not enough and I need to have some more offense capabilities. And so one of the North American scorpions that we have is called the fat-tailed scorpion, and it has decided that it can also spray venom. So it has range now. Unlike all the other scorpions, this one is a ranged fighter and a close range fighter. And so what it'll do is if it sees some kind of small prey outside of its little cave or burrow that it's hiding in, as the prey is coming by, it'll spray it, that will stun it, usually blocking its senses, kind of like acting like pepper spray. And then it'll come out of its little cave, sting it, and then bring it back and do its scorpion and Greek thing that it does before chomping down on it. So that is that's good news, and hopefully we don't get the 8-foot version of that. So the way that kind of brings me into how scorpions hunt. They are nocturnal creatures. They live mostly at night. One time, if you've ever gone night hiking, especially out in the desert, you're going to start to see, if you shine your light near the sides of the trails, you'll see these tiny little pockets that look like someone pressed just like a piece of wood or something into the side of the trail, and you will best see it at night just because of the shadows and your light, and that's usually where scorpions hide out, these like little slivers of holes inside of on the side of hills. And they are very opportunistic hunters. They are not going out at night trying to find or hunt prey. They just wait for insects or any other things that they can eat. Tim says, did you say range or rage? Think some scorpions have rage finders or even rave finders. You know what? I would not be surprised if scorpions had a bit of rage to them. They seem passive, but they've just been evolving so much to just kick ass and kill things. And so I imagine that they have a lot of rage in them, or they're very passive killers and they just are just like, this is what I do. And I'm imagine they go to raves, and that's probably how they blow off steam. A scorpion rave would be sick, is what Bambo says. For who? Yeah, it also would be scary. Okay, 6:55, we're moving on to the last of the quiz questions today. There's a scorpion in my boot, is what Bambo says. Okay, a classic. If we go back in time a little bit, we got a sad bunny, a sad coyote, sad cactus, and now a sad scorpion. Why was the scorpion sad? Look at that sad little guy. Just looking at us. Crying. Scorpion and boot. Ish says, ouch. Sandra says, drum roll. Tim says, armor and pincers and claws and itty bitty stingers. Definitely some rage in there. I agree. I did not get far on this carving. It was a toughie. I need some sharper knives. This might be a sit down, listen to some music. Kind of, if I have a frustrating day or something, I can really work out some of my scorpion rage. Wow, okay, these knives are very sharp. It's just a tough piece of wood. This is not my most proud carving I think I've completed in the hour that I've had these shows. Okay, why was the scorpion sad? Not a lot of puns there, I don't think. Tim says she's sad because she ate her scorpion. You know what? A mom's gotta eat too. Ouch. Bambo says he's sad because he didn't get carved all the way. Good one. Alright, we're carving. Yep, here we go. Waiting for some more responses to come in. I know there's a delay. Yeah. Okay. Oh yay. Alright, let's see. Where are we? Yes. Yes, it is walnut, but it is walnut that was cut off from a knot in a 2-inch thick piece of wood. And so this piece right here is just extremely dense. If you've ever worked with wood and you get to a knot in a piece of wood, you would know that that part is really difficult to cut, really difficult to sand. It's this dense piece, and that's why this is being difficult with me. It's just a really dense piece of wood. This kind of outside section here is not that bad, but this part is. Tim says, or she lost her home on the rage. Life is get sad because no bugs walked by his burrow. Aw. Ish says because it wasn't Christmas and the desert but he had Sandy Claus. Wow. Okay. That's good stuff. So, back to it. I've given some time for responses. Scorpions. Also, at one point, they were watching some lizards, and they saw that the lizard got grabbed in its tail from its predator, and it just released its tail and kept on running. And it said, that's a pretty cool adaptation. And then scorpions now can also release their tails if they get grabbed by something. It is not the same as lizards. They don't get to survive much longer, maybe a few hours. But during mating season, that's pretty much all they're hoping to do. And so even if they die off a few hours later, it's just going to be food for their female mate. And so they just go out there and they do their thing while they're dying, then they die, and then they get eaten. Circle of life, I suppose. But most of the time, after scorpions mate, the male scorpion will actually run away because it's typical for the female scorpions to actually try and eat the male scorpions after they mate. So often the male scorpion will just try to bolt and get out of there until the babies are born, or they will sometimes get eaten by the females. Yeah, scorpions are menaces. They just do their thing. They can be tough towards each other, I suppose. Well, I don't really have too much more to say about scorpions. I think that is actually one of the first times I've reached the end of my script and the end of my carving. Look at that. Beautiful. It looks just like a scorpion. I'll clean this up before I send it out. I promise. But before we end the show, this is going to be a bit of a shorter one because there isn't too much to say about scorpions. Even though they are a little fascinating little creatures. I'm just going to go over the quiz or the questions one more time and see if there's any other answers. And if you want to put all your answers in a clean little answers 1 through 4, that'd be really helpful for me. Dinner date, scorpion style. Okay, a Disney movie based on the adventures of a scorpion. What does the Scorpion King call its subjects? A scorpion's favorite musician or music. And why was the scorpion sad? Why was the scorpion sad? Oh, got way down there. Why was the scorpion sad? Dinner date scorpion style. Life is good says dinner date scorpion style. Maybe not. Tim, looking good. Thank you. I might restart this. And we'll see how I feel later. Ish says, haha, dinner date. Yeah, that's pretty good. yeah, thanks all for coming to the live stream again. I know I've missed the last few weeks, been traveling, been busy, been sick, and it feels good to be back at it and doing the show again, talking about Critters of the Desert. I really do love my Critters of the Desert, and it's nice to talk about them from time to time. And I also just get excited when I get to see them out there, and it helps me connect with the environment that I live in a bit more. So I appreciate all of y'all showing up to this thing that I like to do and giving these funny answers. And yeah, thanks for showing up. Thanks for showing up week after week. Bambo says the Scorpion King, the Lion King. Oh, that's a good one. It's a classic response. Tim, little scorpion. Puffs. The sting, sad because she lost her home on the rage. Alright, carving away. Boy. Snow White and the Seven Scorpions, life is good. Snow White and the Seven Scorpions, crazy critters, clackety clack, and because no bug walked by his burrow. Alright, y'all. Aladdin itty bitty ish says Aladdin itty bitty stingers sting and Sandy claws. Good answers. Good answers. Alright. Gonna be ending the live stream there. That was a tough carving. Did not enjoy that, but I did enjoy talking about scorpions. I'm going to leave the chat going for just a few minutes longer. I will probably forget about it because, as a lot of you know, I consistently forget that the chat is there. Aladdin? What the hell? What did you mean to write? Anyways, I'm going to leave it on just for a few more minutes. Thanks all, and I appreciate that you show up. I know I've said that a few times, but I'm really feeling it right now. And with that, I am going to be logging off, but because I don't really understand the time that it takes for what the latency is between you and me, I'm just going to keep talking, and at some point, I'm just going to turn it off because I'm weird like that. All right.